Hello friends, welcome back. In this video, we'll be discussing one more critical listening exercise for CAT and other management entrance examinations. So the questions or the exercise is provided as a PDF in the link that is given in the description. So please open the link, attempt the exercise first, and then come back and watch the video so that your learning becomes thorough, and whatever doubts you have regarding the questions that will become clarified so that you get maximum uh, advantage of the learning exercise. All right, so we'll go to the questions. The first question is talking about the particular issue or a particular finding that is there about the learning outcomes of the school students in 1981. So what was happening for the in 1981? There was a increase in the performance of the school students in science and in maths and English. For the last 2 decades, means from 1961 onwards, the performance of the scores of the high school students in maths and English have been continuously declining. But in the year 1981, it did not decline, means either it stayed at the same level or it increased. So that is the first fact. And second fact is that it was the same year 1981 when microcomputers were introduced in the school curriculum, or they became popular in America, and students started having interactions with microcomputers. They started microcomputers for schools, for video gamings, and for other settings. So their exposure to microcomputers started in the year 1981. And what is the conclusion made? The conclusion is that instead of stultifying, means restricting. So instead of restricting the intellectual capacity of students, computers are actually enhancing them. So the conclusion made or the argument in the passage is that computers are the responsible element in increasing the score of high school students in maths and English. So that is the conclusion. Now, the question is, what is the weakness in the particular argument? So most serious weakness of the argument you have to find. So from the passage itself, you even without looking at the options, if you are reasonably good in critical reasoning, you can understand what is the weakness. What is the weakness? You are talking about two separate incidents and then connecting the incidents without having a particular reason to connect the incidents, because the two incidents are, one is students scoring well in maths and English in 1981, unlike the previous 20 years. Second incident is they started using computers for the first time. And the argument is connecting these two and saying that it is because of the effect of the computers that students have scored well in maths and English in their exams. So this connection is not, the reason for this connection is not evident in this passage. So that is the weakness in the argument. So once you understand the weakness, the answer becomes very simple. We will discuss the options one by one. Discuss the underlying causes of the 20-year decline. Do we need to understand why there has been a decline in the last 20 years? No, we only need to know why there is an increase in the score this year. So this last 20 years, why the scores declined and all, not really important. Only importance is that how the exposure to computers has increased this to score this year. So this is not going to help us, or this is not a weakness. Option B, cite specific figures documenting the increase in test scores. You are talking about the data to support the increase in test scores. Not needed, because the passage itself says that there is an increase in the test scores. You don't have to question the fact that is given in the passage. The basic theory in critical reasoning is that whatever facts are given to you, you have to accept them as true. Don't question the facts. This we have discussed in the critical reasoning basics video that we have given the first as in the playlist. So people who are new to the channel, you can go and watch that video to understand this concept. Then option C, distinguish among the various types of computers. Again, irrelevant. You don't have to know which are the type of computers that are being used by school students and all, because the passage is only arguing that it is the exposure to the computers that has helped the students in scoring well in maths and English. So what type of computer they are going to use, it is not going to weaken our argument. Option D, define the intellectual capacities tested by the standardized math and English. So what are the intellectual capacities tested by these exams? So here you have to think a little bit. this option would be correct if if it had stated that the intellectual capacities tested by Maths and English is different from the intellectual capacities that are supported by computers. So computers are developing certain intellectual capacities in students, whereas Maths and English is testing other intellectual capacities. If that is there, then it would become a weakness of the argument. So if that is not given, it is only talking about the intellectual capacities tested by the standard Maths students. So this argument is not failing because it is not defining the intellectual capacities. This argument would have failed if the intellectual capacities tested by standard and Maths and English tests are different from the intellectual capacities fostered by the computers. If that had been the statement, this would have been correct. So in this particular way, this statement is not really going to weaken the argument, because knowing the intellectual capacities that are used for Maths and English or that are required for Maths and English is not going to weaken our argument. Option E, explain how exactly school students' abilities on Maths and English tests could have been enhanced by exposure to computers. It's very good, because this is the weakness in the argument. The argument is failing to connect the two different facts. One fact is they are scoring well in Maths and English. Second fact is they are using computers. But how computer usage is helping the intellectual capacities of students in Maths and English is not stated by the passage. That is why this is the weakness of the argument. Option E. So go to the next one. It is talking about the laboratory experiment being the most effective method for teaching science, but it is disappearing from most secondary school curricula. Why? Students are increasingly using computers to simulate the experiment. So instead of directly doing the experiments in a laboratory, they are simulating the experiments in using computers, as a result of which what is happening? They are not getting the experience of working with laboratory equipment. So the argument is that students are completing their school education and going to universities without knowing how to work with laboratory equipment. So what is the argument saying that this trend of students using computers to simulate lab experiments instead of actually doing them is not going to help them in their university studies. This is the reason. So that is why the passage is arguing that they are going into university without knowing how to work with laboratory equipment. So what is the assumption underlying in that argument? See, whenever you want to find a weakness, so our question is to find a weakness. So in order to find a weakness, always the weakness will be lying in the assumption. So what is the assumption inherent in the argument? The assumption is that for studying science in at university level, it is necessary to have experience of working with laboratory experiment. That is why the passage argues that students are completing secondary school education and going into universities without knowing how to work with laboratory experiments. So the assumption is that this experience of working with laboratory equipment is essential for studying science in universities. So once you understand the assumption, it is very easy to spot the weakness, because any statement that weakens the assumption is the statement that weakens the argument. So what is the statement? Very clearly option E, because the option E says that university students can learn science effectively without having had experience in working with laboratory equipment. So this option is directly contradicting the assumption or weakening the assumption. It says that there is no need for university students to have exposure to working with laboratory experiments to learn science. Means they can learn science effectively without even having experience in laboratory equipment. So this is the why it weakens the argument. For the sake of discussion, we will go through the other options as well. So this I'm telling you because once you understand the assumption, then spotting the weakness is very easy. So this is the method you should use in exam environment, where you don't waste time in discussing the other options. Straight away understand the assumption and go to the argument that or statement that weakens the assumption. It will weaken your argument. But for the sake of further knowledge, we will discuss the other options as well. Scientific knowledge is changing so rapidly, it is difficult for secondary schools to keep up without using computers. So this is using computers is necessary. The passage is not stating that using computers is not necessary. It is saying that laboratory equipments or exposure to laboratory equipments is necessary. So this is not weakening Option B, in some secondary schools, the teachers are conducting laboratory experiments. The passage is arguing that exposure to laboratory equipment by the students is necessary. Just because teachers are conducting, will the students get exposure to laboratory equipments, handling laboratory equipment? No. Again, this is not weakening the argument. Option C, computers have proven to be valuable tool. Again, talking about computers, our discussion is not about whether computers are needed or not. Our discussion is that exposure to handling laboratory equipments is needed. So that is why this also is weak, not weakening our argument. Option D, secondary schools and universities across the nation have put a great deal of money into again talking about computers. So very clearly not our answer. We need to have a statement that is talking about the importance or lack of importance of laboratory equipment, which is option C. So option C, so not C, E. So E is the answer very clearly, not an issue here. Then question number 3. It is talking about impoverished family. What is impoverished family? Poor families. So it says that there are certain studies which says that poor families give away larger percentage of their income in charitable donations than wealthy families. That means a larger percentage of the total income that is given for charitable donations is always higher in terms of poor families than wealthy families. As a result, fundraising consultants recommend that charities direct their marketing efforts towards individuals from a lower socioeconomic class in order to maximize the dollar value. So in order to increase the number of dollars, what is my dollar value? Increase the actual dollars that are being donated by people. It is better for marketing agencies to direct their efforts towards people from lower socioeconomic classes. Why? People from lower socioeconomic classes are contributing a larger percentage of their income towards their charity. So that is why the marketing efforts for canvassing the charity should be directed towards poor families. This is the argument. Now, which is the statement that weakens the argument. The best explains why the consultant's reasoning is flawed means which statement weakens the argument to the maximum. So here our argument is increasing the dollar value. Now, option A, marketing efforts are only one way to solicit charitable donations. So marketing efforts are only one way means there could be other ways also. Our discussion is not about whether there are more than one marketing efforts. It is only about directing the marketing efforts towards poor people. So this option is not distinguishing between poor and rich people. So that is why this will not weaken our argument in any way. Not all impoverished families donate to charity. Maybe true. It's not says that yes, poor families are donating a larger percentage of their income for a charity, but not all poor families are donating to charity. Correct. It may be true. So even if not all poor families are donating to charity, do we need to say that marketing efforts should not be directed against poor families? Because since they are the whatever or whichever poor families are donating, they are donating a larger percentage of their income. So this option is again not clearly weakening the argument. Just because some poor families are not donating, there are maybe other poor families who are donating their larger share of income. So that so this statement does not mean that we should not do any marketing for poor families. Option C, some charitable marketing efforts are so expensive that the resulting donations fail to cover the cost of the marketing campaign. So the resulting donations fail to cover the cost means the donations are not able to meet the expenses of the marketing campaign. If this is true, it should be true equally for the poor families as well as the rich families. The passage itself says that poor families are contributing a larger percentage of their income for donations. So if the rich families are not contributing, then what happens? The marketing, the money spent for marketing efforts will not be able to cover the donations both from the rich families as well as from the poor families. So this again is not going to weaken the assumption or the argument. Sorry. Option D, percentage of income is not necessarily indicative of absolute dollar value. Yes, this you need to consider very seriously. What it says, percentage of income. Let's say if there is a family that has an income of $1,000. So, and they are donating 10% of their income. So what will be the donation? $100. Now there is another family, a rich family whose income is $25,000. And they are donating just 2% of their income. So what will be the donation. Here 10% is because they are contributing the larger share. So $1,000, 10% is $100. $25,000, 2% is $500, right? So which one is contributing the in monetary terms, which family is contributing higher? The rich family is contributing higher, even though percentage wise they are contributing lower monetary value, they are percentage higher. So here, in order to increase the maximum dollar value, the objective is to maximize the dollar value, not the percentage value. So if you our objective is to get maximum donations as possible. So even though poor families might be contributing a larger percentage of their income, since rich families are having more income, even if they contribute a smaller percentage of that higher income, their contribution would still be higher. So that is why if you want to increase the maximum dollar value, it is not necessary that you need to get more donations from poor people. Even from rich people, you get smaller donations that will increase the dollar value. So this option is definitely weakening our argument. It is our option. Option E, people are more likely to donate the same causes which their friends donate. Again, irrelevant. We are not talking about this statement is not talking distinguishing between poor families and rich families, as a result of which this option is not going to weaken our argument. So there is only one argument which is distinguishing between the contributions made by the poor families with that of the rich families in percentage terms and in absolute value terms, which is option D. So option B should be your answer. So I hope this is clear, because percentage terms means a percentage of the total income. So poor families, since their income is low, even if they contribute a higher percentage, the dollar value will be lower. Whereas in the case of rich families, since the income is high, even if they contribute a lower percentage of their income, the dollar value or the absolute value will be higher. So that is why this argument is not a good argument. So option D is very clearly your answer. All right, question number 4. Question number 4 is again a slightly tricky question. So it says that there is a particular city called Eastville, and fish is costing almost the same at the seafood stores within the city and on the suburban areas. So what is the suburban areas? Areas surrounding the city is called suburbs. So right now the fish is costing almost the same both within the city and outside the city in the stores, seafood stores where fish is being sold. And seafood stores are buying fish from the same wholesalers at the same prices, and other business expenses are also the same. So all their cost price is the same, their business expenses are the same. So whether the store is within the city or outside the city, they are buying fish from the same wholesalers, their cost is the same, their business expenses are also the same. So as a result of which, they are also selling the fish at the same prices, irrespective of whether the store is within the city or outside the city. But what is the new development? New tax breaks or new tax concessions have substantially lowered the cost of doing business within the cities. Now there is a change. What is that change? New tax concessions are given to seafood stores within the city, as a result of which what will happen there? Business expenses will come down. Why? Because they have to pay only lower taxes. So the argument is that in future, profit margins will be higher for the seafood stores within the city. So since their business expenses are going to come down, the cost price will still be the same, because the wholesaler are buying from the same wholesalers. But since the business expenses are going to come down because of lower taxes, the city stores will have more profit than the suburban stores. This is the argument. Now, for the purpose of evaluating the argument, so in order to understand whether this argument is going to be true or not, which is the most useful statement. So in order to check whether this is going to be true or not, which is the most useful thing that we need to know? That is the question. Now, option A, more fish wholesalers are located within the city than in the surrounding suburbs. So what is the meaning here? If more fish wholesalers means people who are selling the fish to the retailers or the city stores. So they are located within the city. So what is going to happen? The tax concessions are applicable to people who are situated within the city, not necessarily the seafood stores. It only says that new tax breaks will substantially lower the cost of doing business within the city. So it is applicable to all businesses within the city. So it is applicable to the wholesalers also. So if the wholesalers who are situated within the city are getting lower taxes there, then their uh, profit will be higher. So their margins will be higher. So what will happen? What will happen? If they have a more profitability, what will happen? They might be selling the fish to at a lower rate to the seafood stores. So if they sell a fish to a lower rate to seafood stores, what will happen? Not just the seafood stores within the city, the seafood stores from outside the city will also buy fish from these wholesalers if it is sold at a lower price. So there is a condition here. If the wholesalers within the city decide to sell the fish at a lower price to the seafood stores, then both the seafood stores from within the city as well as from outside the city will start buying from these wholesalers within the city. As a result of which, what will happen? There will not be any impact on the profit margins for the people within the city because the cost is going to be the less for both the people. But what will happen? The cost wise, there will not be any difference, but these people will still have some profit in the some additional profit in the form of tax concession. So the seafood stores within the city, if they are going to get fish at a cheaper price from the wholesalers within the city, will have a profit margin. So this statement will be true if the wholesalers in the city decide to lower the selling price of fish because of the tax concessions. Because of tax concessions, they are getting additional profit. And since they are getting additional profit, if they decide to pass on that profit to the retail stores, then this will have an impact on the profit margins of the seafood stores within the city. So this statement will be useful only if the wholesalers located within the city are going to reduce the prices. Option B, any people who currently own seafood stores in the suburbs surrounding Eastville will relocate their business nearer to the city. So what will happen? Because of the tax concessions, many seafood stores who are in the outsides or in the suburbs, they will relocate to within the city. What will happen in that case? More seafood stores within the city. When there are more seafood stores within the city, all of them will enjoy the tax concessions, and all of them will enjoy the tax concessions. What will happen? More competition. So, if they decide to reduce the prices, what will happen? If they decide to reduce the prices, then the profit margins will not be higher. So just in the case of the if here, there is another if here. This statement alone is not going to help us in deciding whether the profit margins will be higher, because when there is more competition within the city, what will happen? The consumers are remaining the same, but more seafood stores will be there within the city. When there are more seafood stores within the city, then obviously if there will be more competition. So because of the higher competition, if the seafood stores within the city decide to reduce the prices, then the profit margins will not be higher, because whatever additional reduction in the business or business expenses, or whatever reduction in the business expenses due to the tax concessions will be offset by the reduction in the prices. So there will not be any additional profit margins. But there is a condition if they decide to reduce the prices. So this option also will be valid to us or useful to us only if we also know whether the competition will force the seafood stores to reduce the prices or not. If they are reducing the prices, the profit margins will not be higher. If they don't reduce the prices, yes, the profit margins will be higher. So this option also depends on an if. Option C, the wholesale price of fish is likely to fall in the future. How? We cannot say. This is completely irrelevant. This is not related to the tax concessions or the future profit margins, because this is talking about wholesale price of fish likely to fall in the future, because we don't know whether the wholesale price of fish is likely to fall. Only the wholesale price of fish will fall only if all the wholesalers are situated within the city. The passage is not telling us whether all the wholesalers are situated within the city. So that is why, or whether the wholesalers themselves are situated outside the city or within the city, we don't know. Since that is not given to us, this option is not going to help us in deciding about the argument. Option D, fish has always cost about the same at seafood stores throughout Eastville and its surrounding suburbs. It is talking about what was the situation in the past. Whatever be the changes, fish has always cost about the same time at seafood stores. If means whether the stores are in the city or outside the city, fish is costing the same. So if that is the case in future, also fish will cost the same. There will not be any impact on profit margins. But this is only about the past. So in future, whether this is going to be true or not, we don't know. So that is why again, and if the if the wholesalers or the seafood stores within the city continue to sell the fish at the same price, then they will have higher profit margins. So, but we don't know, because just because the fish has always been sold at the same price in the past, it is not necessary that fish will be sold at the same price in future. So again, if is required. So here it is again a condition. So only when another condition is satisfied, this statement will become useful to us. Now, option E, seafood stores within the city will in the future set prices that are lower than those at suburban seafood stores. So this option says that definitely the seafood stores within the city are going to reduce the prices. So if they are going to reduce the prices, what will happen? We can very clearly say that these few profit margins will not be higher. So we can evaluate this argument and say that no, this argument will not be true if we know this for certain. Means here there is no condition. It says that seafood stores are definitely going to reduce the prices than those at suburban seafood stores. If they reduce the prices, what will happen? Whatever advantage they have in profit margin will be lost, because the tax concessions, they will have some profit margin. That profit margin will be lost because they are going to reduce the prices. So they will continue to have the same profit. No additional profit will be there. So that is why this option very clearly is helping us to evaluate the truth or lack of truth in the argument. There is no condition involved here. All other statements are based on certain conditions. Only option C you can completely ignore. All other statements are based on conditions. So that is why this statement is not having any conditions attached to it, as a result of which option E is the best answer that will in its own means it is not dependent on any other external conditions. On its own, it is able to help us in evaluating this argument. So option E is our answer. I hope this is clear. This was a slightly tricky question. Then go to question number 5. What is here talking about here? It is saying that new technology can increase the productivity of coal mines, as demonstrated by the case of Tribinia. Tribinia must be a city or a coal mines area, and there is a coal industry there. A lot of coal mines are there in Tribinia. So here it has given us proof that technology can increase the productivity of existing coal mines, as demonstrated by the case. How they are saying coal output per miner is double what it was 5 years ago, even though no new mines have been opened. So there are no new mines. Still, coal output per miner is doubled within the 5 years. So here you have to understand that coal output per miner is total coal production by all the mines in Tribinia divided by total number of mines working in, total number of miners working in all the mines. So let us say P is the total production of all the coal mines in Tribinia, divided by M will be the total number of miners employed in all the coal mines. So P divided by M will give us the output per miner, which is denoted by O. So this is the formula. Total production of all the coal mines divided by total number of miners employed in the coal mines is equal to O. So now the statement says that this has become doubled. It has become 2O in the last 5 years. So O has become 2O in the last 5 years. No new mines are added. So mines production increase is because any fraction, if it doubles, means either the numerator has to double will with the denominator remaining constant, or the denominator has to half with the numerator remaining constant. So this is either P has to become 2P, well, M will remain constant, or P will remain constant and M will become M by 2. Only then this O becomes 2O. This is a mathematical equation. You are sure to know this because you are all people preparing for management exam. So you should know this basic arithmetic. So this is the calculation. Now, which can be properly concluded. So which is the statement that can be concluded about the output per miner in the passage. So we will examine the options one by one. If the number of miners working in Tribunian coal mines has remained constant in the past 5 years, Tribunia's total coal production has doubled in that period of time. Means we know that O has now become 2O in the 5 years. So if M is remaining constant, what is the obvious thing? P will become 2P, right? The production has to become doubled. So this is very simple mathematics, because if O has become 2O, so M is remaining constant, means total number of miners is constant. So P has to become 2P for this O to become 2O. So this is a good conclusion. Probable answer, keep it in your mind. Option B, any individual Tribune coal mine that has achieved an increase in overall output in the past 5 years has also experienced an increase in output per miner. Means we are talking about individual Tribunian coal mine. We here in this formula, we are talking about the total coal production of all the mines divided by the total number of miners in all the mines is equal to the output per miner of the Tribunian coal industry. So here in any individual coal mine, there is an increase in overall output in the past 5 years, and it has also experienced an increase in output per miner. Can it be true? No. Why? Because if there is an increase in overall output and an increase in output, then that means there is an increase in output per miner. Not necessary. So let us say that there is an increase in overall output in a particular coal mine. They have also increased the number of miners. So the because of the increase in the number of miners, that individual coal mine, there is an increase in the overall output. It is not necessary that the increase as experienced in increase, there will be an increase in the output per miner. Why? Because if this is increasing and this is increasing, this value will not remain constant. So there is an increase in the output per miner, you cannot say. So when the numerator increases and the denominator increases, the value might remain constant, it might not increase. So that is why you cannot say that there is an increase in the output per miner, because any Tribunian coal mine which can increase the production can also increase the number of miners. So as a result of the increase in the number of miners, the production has increased. So the output given by one miner need not increase, because the total production can increase with the total number of miners employed. So more miners employed, more production. So the production per miner will not increase. So that is why this option will not be a good conclusion. You can ignore it. Option C, if any new coal mines had opened at Tribune in the past 5 years, then the increase in the output per miner would have been even greater. It means the production has increased because of the total, because of new mines added. So new mines are added, as a result of which production has increased. And it says that the increase in the output per miner would have been even greater. Then instead of 2O, it would have become 3O. Is it completely true? No. Let us say that production has increased because of opening of a new mine. The passage says a new mines are opened, but let us assume that if any new coal mines are opened. So let us say a new coal mine has opened, as a result of which production has increased. The passage says that the output per miner would have been higher than that is actually what is actually. Now it is 2O. So it becomes 3O. Will it be true? No, it will be true only if the number of miners are reduced. Because for any fraction to increase with an increase in the numerator, the denominator, what the denominator has to do? The denominator has to decrease. Only then the total fraction will increase, because total fraction will increase from the present value. So the present value, if the numerator alone increases with the denominator remaining the same. So here it says that the increase in output per miner would have been even greater than it actually was. If any new coal mines had opened in Tribhuvan in the past 5 years, then the increase in output per miner, this need not always be true. It can be true. I am not saying that it is no, it can be true, but the passage is that it will be true in all the cases. We cannot say that, because any new coal mine increased, let us say that the number of miners also increased. So will the output per miner will become 30? No. Only if the number of miners either remain constant and production increases to a very high degree, or production increases slightly and the number of miners decreases, then only this value becomes from 20, it becomes 30. That is why this option also need not be true all the time. We have to find an option that is true in all the cases. So we have to look at all the angles and then find an answer. Option D, if any individual Tribhuvan coal mine has not increased in its output per miner in the past 5 years, then the mine's overall output has declined or remained constant. Means for a particular coal mine, there is no increase in the output. In that case, there is no increase in the, means there is no increase in the output per miner. So it says that for a particular miner for which there is no increase in the output per miner, there is no increase in the overall output. Can we say that? No, because even with no increase in the output per miner, the total output can increase. Why? How? If the number of miners are increased, right? If the number of miners are increased, so what will happen? The total production will increase, but there will not be any increase in the output per miner. So that is why this option also cannot be true. So for an individual Tribhuvan mine. Option E, in Tribhuvan, the cost of producing a given quantity of coal has declined over the past 5 years. So here, cost of production, we don't know anything about the cost of production. We only know about the production and the output per miner, because the cost of production is depending on so many factors. It is not just depending on the number of miners employed in a mine. So we cannot make any comments regarding the cost of production, but just from the whatever is stated in the passage here. So that is why you can, because if the cost of production is exclusively dependent on the number of miners, what can we say? No new mines are opened. If no new miners are added, then we can say that this would have been a correct statement, because no new mines are opened, no new miners are added, whereas output per miner has increased, production has increased, definitely the cost of production has come down. But the cost of production is only the because of the miners. For that fact, we need to be given. If we are told that the cost of production is only the wages or the salary paid to the miners, and the number of miners has not increased, whereas the productivity or the cost of per miner has increased, means total production has increased, so cost of production has come down. So that would be a good statement. But since we don't know what are the factors that influence the cost of production, and we also don't know whether the more miners are added or reduced, that this will not be a good answer. So the very clear answer is option A. So here you need to know this particular formula, how coal output per miner is calculated. It is total production divided by total number of miners is coal output per miner. Once you know that, the answer becomes very simple. Option A is the clear answer. So of this, in this exercise, only the last two questions are slightly tricky, or the first three questions are very easy. So the time I have given for you is 10 minutes. If you are able to answer the first three questions in, let's say, 3 or 4 minutes, then you have 6 minutes left for the remaining questions. That is enough to do the analysis for these two questions and arrive at the answer. So 10 minutes for 5 questions is more than enough. Normally in your exam environment, you may not be getting 10 questions. You might be getting only 1.5 minutes per question. That is about 7.5 minutes. So what you have to do is progressively reduce the time you are spending on each question, so that the total time taken for attempting the questions comes down in a gradual manner. So this is what you have to focus on while you do the exercises. That is why I am always telling you to first attempt the exercises on your own and then come back and see the explanations. So that will give you some tips on how to reduce the time and increase your accuracy. So thank you. I hope you have liked the video. If you have liked it, please like, share, and subscribe so that I get motivated to come out with further videos. Again, thank you. Bye bye.